think it's very telling that when you hear or you see somebody in a vulnerable state, you really do have two things you can do, right? Well, three. Not pay attention at all, not do anything. You could either be supportive or you can be a troll and you can be negative and you can try to hurt somebody that you don't even know. And when we do the Bert Show here, I think the toughest thing about coming on and doing this sometimes, and you guys probably don't realize how courageous it is really to come on here and kind of open up our wounds and share those things with you guys. And we do it because we know a lot of you guys are going through the same thing. And I wish there was some unwritten law that said, you know what, I'm going to respect that person for being so vulnerable and opening up. And a lot of you guys do that. But there are a few from time to time that take advantage of the situation and try to make us feel worse. And in this case, it has to do with Cass.
You know, and I think there's something important because I think some people don't, like, they let their anger control them, but they don't realize how weaponized their words are. So I kind of want this to be a heads up for people about the damage that you're doing. Last week, there was a topic, and I did not realize, with all the things going on in the world, that whether or not a 1-year-old had cake at her birthday would be so divisive. Like, there are over 800 comments on our Facebook page. Yeah, it's people have opinions. And you know what? I'm not here to say if an opinion is right or wrong. There were so many people with really helpful alternative suggestions. So thank you guys for that. But wow, people had opinions.
I'm just really curious what some of the opinions were, because for me, it's kind of a no-brainer. Most parties have it, and I've never really thought twice about it. What was the controversy?
I don't want sugary cake at my child's first birthday. So I don't think, I mean, it's not recommended that a child have added sugar until the age of 2. She's never had cake. She doesn't know what it is. And so for me, I'm like, why am I going to give you a sugar bomb?
Okay.
It's unhealthy just so I can have photos based on my research and my philosophy in feeding my child. Other people are like, you should do it for the photo op. And you know what? I found some listeners gave me really cool recipes of sugar-free cakes. Problem solved. But Chad wanted a cake and I did not.
Yeah, but it's all about the smash cake photo op. So, of course, at every 1-year-old's birthday, you take the onesie off, you take their cute little birthday outfit off, you put them in a high chair, and you put, like, this mini cake in front of them, and they just, you know, start grabbing at it and smushing it all over their face. And, you know, those are some of the quintessential pictures you get.
Gotcha.
But when we talked about it, there was a lot of listeners who called who had gluten-free recipes, who had vegan recipes. And, like, you can still do the smash cake, but it can be sugar-free, and you can still have those adorable pictures.
Dobby?
And the tofu cake. Remember the tofu cake?
I opted not to bring that one up. However, she tagged us on Instagram. She tagged us on Instagram of the tofu cake, and it was adorable.
Really?
So
it was
what?
all in one solid piece.
What were some of the negatives on it? Like, oh, how dare you? Like, this is really not a big deal. Why are you even talking about this at this time of, you know, in a pandemic or in a serious time that we're going through?
Yeah, I think there were a lot of accusations of I was overthinking it, get off my high horse. It's one day a year. I'm going to set my child up for obesity later in life by not teaching her moderation now, which, spoiler alert, she's 1. She can't even remember what she did yesterday. Like, she won't even remember this birthday. You know, and just that I'm going down a dangerous path, basically, by restricting foods. And I want to say it's not about the cake. It's not about the actual cake. It was about the influx of sugar for a baby that her only sugar has come from, I guess, milk from me and fruit. Like, she doesn't eat added sugar. But that's, you know, that's okay. People have their opinions. Some people really love cake and the tradition, and that's not what this is about. Like, what I really want to concentrate on is there were some recurring comments that I found super harmful. And I have a thick skin because I've been doing this show for almost 10 years and I've been attacked a lot of times. But for this really shocked me, and it got under my skin for a hot second. You know, I felt sad. I felt like a bad mother reading these comments. I felt like a failure. I felt ashamed. I felt betrayed. I felt not good enough. And I hated myself until I realized these are people on the internet trying to make me feel bad for a decision I made that I am doing to protect my daughter. And if I have to be the bad guy in order to protect her from something that I feel she doesn't need, I will be that bad guy. But what I'm talking about is on this show, I've been super open about my issues with food my entire life, my struggles with weight and that whole journey, the ups, the downs, the highs, the lows. And I just want to point out that bringing this issue up is not inappropriate. There's a way to bring it up. So some listeners kindly asked if perhaps my food issues, I could be projecting them onto my daughter with the sugar, which when you're trying to be helpful is, I get it. It's the thing. I've been opening up, and the way some people asked was so kind. It came from a place of empathy, of understanding. And no, just for the record, I came up with a game plan for that when I was pregnant because I was terrified of screwing up my daughter with food issues. So I already have that game plan in place. This was literally just about sugar. But some people weaponized my vulnerabilities against me, and those are the people I want to address. When you weaponize someone's insecurities against them, it makes them regret coming forward at all. It makes them feel like they bared a part of themselves to you, and then you've used it to judge and belittle them, and it makes them feel even more like a failure. So think about what you perceive to be your biggest failure. Not what is your biggest failure, but your biggest flaw, because I know that my food issues aren't a failure. They're something for me to work through. But imagine you coming forward and being like, I need help with this. This is what I'm going through. And then someone throwing it back in your face a week, a month, a year later, and using it against you about something that's maybe tangentially related. It hurts. It's harmful, and you feel betrayed. And like I said, I have a thick skin. Imagine if I was a teenage girl who came forward about my eating disorders. And then you weaponize that against me. And I can feel the eye rolls like, yes, I'm not a teenage girl. I'm a 35-year-old woman. There's a big difference. Those teenage girls read what you write on the internet. So it doesn't matter if you're not saying it to them. They're seeing you say it to me. They're seeing how you use people's vulnerabilities. And it doesn't have to just be food issues. It can be any kind of psychological issue, any kind of flaw that someone feels bad about. They watch you turning and attacking people for their flaws, and then they close down and they don't get the help that they need, or they feel worse and they keep secrets. It is damaging to do that. So don't sit here and say that I'm putting my weight issues and weird food issues onto my kid, or that I'm projecting my own insecurities on my daughter, or that I'm pushing my weird issues with food on my daughter. I really can't with you, Cassie. I don't need you to come out and attack me for it. There are ways to have those conversations. And no, I'm not pushing my weird food issues on my daughter. But if you really cared, you would phrase it differently, because there are plenty of listeners who did phrase it differently. And I appreciate those conversations. So your words have power, and even if you attack me, a stranger you don't know on the internet, over a child's first birthday cake, your words are carrying weight with the people who read them, and I want you to take that home with you, because you are having an impact on someone else's life, and someone else may not get the help they need, they may not come forward, and it may sound dramatic, but it takes one. It takes one person that you deterred, and you've had an impact on a life, and not a positive one at that point.
Where is the empathy? Like, I can't think of any first-time mom or dad, and I'll speak for myself as a dad, that isn't constantly fighting their own insecurities when you have a kid to make sure that they don't have the same insecurities that you do. Who hasn't gone through that, man? Like, my biggest issue with my kids, where it's like, these are going to be undersized kids. I just want to make sure that my insecurity about being insecure my entire life, I don't push onto them. Everybody has felt that in one way or another if you're a thinking parent. So where is the empathy? It doesn't matter if it's food issues, height issues, the issues that you have with your parents. You just want to make it better for your own kids. But I think people forget that they had those insecurities when they had their first child.
In empathy, I think people. I just watched Chelsea Handler stand up over this weekend, and she talks about the difference between sympathy and empathy, and they are two very different things. Empathy is like, you can feel sympathy for people and you feel for them, but with empathy, it's putting yourself in their shoes and seeing it from their perspective and understanding and being vulnerable with them. Like, you're actually putting yourself in their place so you can have a better understanding. And I think the dangers with social media are people are so ready to pop off that they're not ready to see the big picture, and they're not ready to put themselves in other people's shoes, because they don't stop to think, how would I feel if this comment was directed at me?
It's a dagger. It's a dagger through my heart for you to tell me that I'm messing up my daughter because of my own issues over whether or not I'm giving her cake at her first birthday. I felt awful. And now I don't. Screw you guys.
Good. Like you said, Cass, she's going to have zero recollection of what kind of birthday cake she had at her first birthday.
The Bert Show.